Hey, everybody. It's Jason and Tom here. We have a special guest today for FFIB. We have Eric Glesser from Spyderco. I'm sure you guys have heard of Spyderco, but we're both super excited and nervous to be talking to our hero here. Eric's joined us to talk a little bit about Spyderco, talk about his company, and I don't know. We've had a million questions between Tom and I, and every time we get together to plan on what we wanted to talk to you about, it didn't go so well. It usually ended with us just going, what should we talk about? What should we talk about?
We'll just wing it. Do it live.
We'll save it for air. We had some broad strokes that we wanted to talk about. So Eric, looks like Steve Fitzpatrick says, hey guys, can you see the comment below the picture?
Oh, I can.
Okay.
Yep.
There you go. So we can bring these up. If we want see something we want to talk about, we'll bring it up like Sports Center, and we'll have a little crawl at the bottom. I'm seeing all of our usual faces showing up. Everybody's been planning their day around this moment. Max says hi from Hawaii.
Right on.
Yeah. Well, we've got people from all over the place on here. We have
Greg, never missed the show.
We do the show every Sunday night and a couple of times, maybe once during the week. And there are some diehard fans that do not miss an episode. And it looks like we got most of them here already. And a bunch of new guys. This is great.
We even have Ryan Wade from the Spyderco Customs Club. So Ryan's site is primarily focused on the customization of the knives. So that's a whole nother group with thousands of members. Pretty cool.
Also so important.
Absolutely. So we were going to start with something hacky and cliche, but everybody will like it. We wanted to talk about what's in your pocket. What kind of knife do you have on you today?
Oh, well, I had one that's a new material I'm dealing with, but I also grabbed this one too, which is the Warrenclyffe Para 2. This one's getting ready to drop sooner or later, so that's what I'm carrying today.
Wow.
Jeff Loffer, one of my good friends at Cutlery Shop. This is his exclusive, and I know you guys are close to him as well, and so I'm carrying one of these today.
Yeah, he's around sometimes. He's busy unpacking knives today, I believe. He sent us a picture of a cut open box, and you could see all the spines, all the stickers in a row. It's pretty cool.
Right on.
His UPS guy stays busy for sure. That was a big old stack of boxes.
But yeah, this is what I'm sporting right now. This is my. We're dealing with a new glow in the dark, and that's always, glows are always a challenge. Give me a piece of tritium, that won't go away. But now I'm dealing with another piece of glow I'm testing out. So I've always got something new in my pocket.
If only you could get tritium infused G10, that'd be mad.
Yeah, that'll stay glowing. We're performance based, and when you get into glow, though we've done it, there's nothing quite like tritium and some of these other things, and so. That's one of the other things I'm playing with.
Good. That's awesome.
Because everyone already asked me that aren't into knives if this glows in the dark, and they get really excited. And then I have to say no. And then if they're not a knife person, they just walk away. But now there'll be some glow in the dark. That's kind of crazy.
Well, we'll see. It's got to perform. Okay. That piece you have there, though, you got to keep it clean. When I was a kid, I was a comic book collector, so that shows some of my nerdiness. But you buy two of them. You buy one to put it in a plastic pack, and you buy one to read. And so you get something like a natural Para 2. You can't muck it up, or you're going to dye it. We have another natural we're dealing with right now, and we have to ship those dry. We don't want to put oil in them because they're so clean and pristine. And so there's something about buying something like that that's clean and pristine, and either keeping it clean and pristine or tearing it up. Both can be fun.
Well, I have a suggestion for you. In the bottom of the box, take out the foam and replace it with magic eraser. A little piece of damp magic eraser cleans up natural G10 like you wouldn't believe.
Oh, wow. I had no idea.
Unbelievable.
I have not tried to clean up natural G10 with an eraser.
It'll actually take off Blue Jean Indigo too. Just one of those spongy magic erasers.
Yeah,
you go.
That's
Boom,
neat. I'm gonna have to try that. That's cool.
It'll also make DLC look brand new DLC.
Yeah, it does.
Without being touched.
Right on. Yeah. Thanks for the tips. Definitely.
Brought to you by Finger Flicked and Box. That's right. So
I do have a problem though, Eric. Something happened to my Z-Wear Shaman, and I don't know what's wrong with it. It doesn't look like all the other ones.
Wow,
the
that's
thing came out weird.
gorgeous.
What happened?
Yeah,
It fell in this pot on my stove, and it came out this weird teal color. It's weird.
that's gorgeous.
Nice job.
Beautiful piece.
Is that the one you're worried about? Yeah, this thing, when these come out of the box, they're so pristine. The micarta is just beautiful. And it gets beautiful the more you handle it too, but it's definitely gained some color.
Yeah, that's a challenge too. You know, we're going to be doing more micarta, as you guys probably know. And you're going to get some variation from one batch to the next. You know, when you see all of these Z-wares and crew wares where the paramilitary and the micarta come out, you know, you put them all side by side, you might see some small variations, but we're trying our very best to keep them as clean and consistent as possible.
Nice.
Beautiful piece, though.
They're fun. They're a fun knife. It really, the micarta on the Shaman, I think, it's a perfect home for it because it really adds to some grip when you're trying to close it. It works really well. And this is something I guess me and Jason wanted to touch on at some point, but since we kind of brought it up, the thing a lot of people are probably really excited from the last 3 reveals even, you're putting micarta on a PM2.
Yeah, finally. It comes with full liners, though. You know, micarta has been tough for a tough pitch for me to do. I guess my dad's been a lot easier on it, so I have to give him credit on that. He's been trying to push me towards more and more micarta now for some time. But it's just so hard to manufacture. It wants to bend and move, and it's inconsistent. We used to deal with micarta on the old Wayne Goddards, on the Cenofanis, and though most of that wasn't canvas micarta, it's micarta, and that can certainly have its challenges, or a derivative from micarta. And so now we're working on it more and more. It's so great to use and feel and carry, except for the engineers have to figure out how to make it so that it performs like we want it to. You know, if we can pull it off, I'd like to see more than just the PM2. But that was probably the one that was most in demand right now, people asking for, so we started with that one. But yeah, there's more to come, hopefully.
Was it a pretty significant redesigning the liners, or was it relatively like it could be applied to other scale materials if you wanted to?
That's the hope. You know, when we went to a full liner, we're hoping we can apply that to other scale materials. It's not so easy as just throwing a full liner on it and it working. You know, having the spring work like it was supposed to work, and having everything fit the liners and not have gaps, and get the feel for the push of the button on the lockup like we're anticipating. It was, you know, we didn't do it on our first shot of prototyping, but like you said, if this works out, it can lend itself to other materials. You know, like glow, for example. You know, glow is typically pretty brittle. When you start adding glow to materials, you know, and now at that point, you know, how are you going to make the knife perform? And full liners will certainly help in making something that we're trying to shoot for glow. And so there are a lot of materials in the works right now. A lot of them are hard to use, and more liners help. You know, handle materials is in a renaissance right now. I'm sure you guys know that following online, but you know, every time I turn around, there's a new makeup, and it's a beautiful thing to be a part of. Not so easy to fabricate, but fun to be a part of.
There's a whole slew of cottage industries out there for people making aftermarket scales, and one thing we've noticed in the group from the thousands of people that have traded out their G10 for something else is that if somebody's having centering issues with their PM2, more often than not, what will happen is we'll dig into it. We'll find out they're using some sort of either a burlap micarta or a paper micarta, something like that. And when you think about the nested liner being in the scale, it doesn't have the rigidity that the G10 did. And so when I heard about the full liner on that knife, my first instinct was I was kind of like, oh, I don't like it. But then I really thought about it, and I was like, man, you could do almost anything now. You could do wood. You could do a wood scale. You could do bone. You could do, you know, like ivory. If you were to get some mammoth ivory, there's all kinds of things that you could do now because it doesn't need to be structural.
I'm a hard pitch on all of those. Actually.
I believe you.
You know, we've had whole batches of knives crack in wood or bone, and you're either trying to rework or throw a whole batch of knives away. And once you rework a knife, they're really never the same. Now, when you say non-centered blade, it always triggers me a little bit these days. We're always working on trying to make those better and better. Making double distal tapers, particularly as long as we are, and the shapes we're trying to bevel can be a challenge for centered blades. I certainly hear the cries, but we're working on centering our blades more and more all the time. So sorry if you said something that certainly caught my attention there too.
It certainly would not be your fault in that instance. It would be the fault of the scale or perhaps the person putting it together. But I know I've handled hundreds of PM2s. Tom has handled hundreds of PM2s, and I can't think of any that I've owned that I wasn't able to dial in. It was usually my fault, right?
Yeah,
it was not the knife's fault.
The better the parts, usually the little bit the cleaner the knife on its centering.
Right.
Tight tolerances. We're trying to get to the point where you don't have to dial it in as much. When I was a kid, everything has to be dialed in. I mean, it was the artistry of the knife maker and assembly that really made these things tick and work. And as time goes on, people want them to assemble like Legos, no oil needed, no adjustment needed. Everything works perfect. And we always strive for that. But these days, sometimes you need some adjustment by an expert. But we try for some precision parts typically.
Absolutely.
So what were you showing there for a second? It didn't have a round hole in it.
No, this is somebody else's knife. This is a TRM. But to illustrate your point, these are made out of maple. These are maple scales on it with a nested liner, and they're very expensive. And yesterday I handed it to a friend of mine, and he went to flick it open and he cut his thumb, and then he got blood on the wood. And it does have a little bit of a finish on it, but it wouldn't take much to soak in. And also, if you were to drop it, they'd probably blow up into a million pieces. So it's a lot of money to put into a scale that's not very durable. It's certainly not ready for the workplace. This is a showpiece. It's certainly not a doer.
Well, I have to give the wood industry some credit too, though. They're making better materials all the time. They're infusing them with different epoxies or different processes to try to stabilize them more and more all the time. We just came out with a bird's eye maple knife. Let's see how that goes. I'd like to see those stay in the market for a little while. I'm more confident in things like wood than I am bone right now. Bone, I've had some terrible stories with.
I believe it.
But we're always pushing on all levels, whether it's locks, materials, steels, designs, all of that stuff. And knives are so organic that, if we can add some organic materials like wood or bone or some of these other things, it's great.
I'm seeing a couple of things in the comments that I wanted to bring up and kind of cover while we're here. Yesterday, there was some confusion about the new Wharncliffe PM2 and the pivot. Can you confirm that the pivot is the standard PM2 pivot and it's not a new unique pivot?
It shouldn't be a new unique pivot, not that I'm aware of.
The language
it should be
in
the same standard pivot that's in the current paramilitary too. Now the pivot has gone through a number of changes through the years on the Para 2, just because we've learned a lot more through the years. But there shouldn't be any recent changes in the pivot that I'm aware of.
Okay, good.
That was my fault. I was spreading rumors because I read something that was old copy off an old PM2, and I'm like, new pivot, and I got really excited.
Yeah, the copy talked about the larger.
On your toes, though.
Yep.
CQI around here. If we'll find a better way, we'll typically go in that direction. It makes it hard for the aftermarket guys. As a kid, I hate to bring this up too again because it profiles me a bit, but I was into my Honda Civics and my Toyotas, and you get your spoilers and your stabilizer bars, and you're working on the shocks, and you're doing all that cool stuff to your car. And nowadays I'm not that same kid, but as a knife guy, I see that. Give me my new pocket clip, give me my spoiler, and let's make this thing go faster. So I really feel for the guys that are customizing. They have to sometimes adjust for our CQI. From our point of view, we're always making it for the long term, for the performance-based buyer that's not doing as much customization, but we do keep it aware of it. In warranty and repair, we really try to service those customers so much better than we used to. We accept that people take a wrench to these things. So, you know, I know I'm getting off topic a little bit, but, you know, it's all important to me, all that stuff.
That's something you just
Great.
brought up. I'd like to talk about. I bought a military
Nice
fluted.
piece.
I bought this secondhand off a guy, and the detent ball had fallen out.
Oh,
So I get the thing, and my intention was to fix it. And of course, I can't fix that kind of thing because I don't have a press. But as I disassembled the knife, I found that the pivot, the D-shaped pivot, had actually torqued the titanium and bent it so that you could no longer tighten the pivot anymore.
oh no.
So I placed it in a box with a letter begging warranty repair to please restore my knife. And not only did they fix the detent, but they fixed the pivot, and they gave it a sharpening and a once over, and it was $25. I mean,
Right on.
it was a total bargain. I was so happy because this is a knife that you can't just get every day.
No,
was
I'm
very
so
fair.
glad to hear that. You know, we really try to work hard in our warranty and repair to service the customer the best we can. We understand that these knives are so important to people. Sometimes they're given to them by a family member, or they save their lives, or they just, you know, they have a real appreciation for them. As a side note, you get into things like ball bearings and pivots. You know, ball bearings is a big world. You know, how does that ball bearing go into the blade? You know, is the hole larger than the diameter of the ball bearing? Is it smaller? How big is the ball bearing? How much do you press it in? I mean, there's so much in the world of just a small ball bearing on a lock. And when somebody, you know, takes that knife apart like that and they start tinkering on it, they're diving into a world that they may not realize what they're diving into. But, you know, a lot of times that's how you gain experience. You know, I'm sure I messed up a few things toying on them. And I do the same thing. I ask the factory if I can get it fixed.
Yeah.
You know, first thing I think of is my chainsaw. You know, how many parts have I lost off of that thing? And my steel chainsaw, man, they do so good at servicing those parts. So we want to be that great company that helps do all those things.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think that's one rumor that I guess maybe the word never got fully spread, but it used to be people were terrified to take apart a knife. They were terrified of locks or of Loctite, and we feel like within the club, people have really gotten a lot more comfortable to like knowing the inner workings and the mechanics, and actually have a deeper appreciation for how these work, what is good, what makes it better. I mean, your guys' tolerance on a PM2 between drop shut and not drop shut is a 24th of a turn because it's so dialed in. And having people that are comfortable going, it's a little bit tight there where I want that much of a turn, and they're good. That's one thing me and Jason really work on with the club, is just getting people be comfortable with your product, that they're not scared to ruin it.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, try not to ruin it, but don't be scared of it. You know, we try to build these things more to jump into. We build product across the world, though, with a lot of different components. And, you know, whether you're buying something in Japan or America, Taiwan, Italy, you know, China, we do want you to be able to work on it a little bit. You know, these things are built to be used as a tool. Now, at the same time, keep in mind that you're altering it. You know, you work on your brakes in your car and your brakes fail and you drive off a cliff and hurt yourself. It's likely your fault. Knives are very much similar. You start toying on these things and muck it up, it could cause some other issues. But when you know what you're doing, you know, you can make these things perform quite well. You know, I'm the old guy that used to take things apart and sand it and polish it up and add some graphite just so it dropped all the way. But, you know, we're building for those types of things all the time, more and more. You know,
I mean, the action on a PM2 is very unique. I have some high-end knives that can drop as smoothly, but they're on washers and they cost a heck of a lot more than a PM2, and they're not as fun to play with. So, I mean, you guys have figured out how to, you know, make it not just function as a tool, but function as, and it's one of those embarrassing things that no one in our group likes to talk about. we all like to fidget with our knives, and we don't like to admit that that's like super important. And so to have these knives that are reasonably affordable, but you still get the action of like a mid-tech knife, it still drops shut, you can still have a great time with it, is so cool.
Trying to make them affordable is always a challenge too. You know, we're going to start with high performance, and you know, we could make $600, $1,000 knives all day long, and trying to bring them to the market where, you know, the person can afford it. The perspective of a knife buyer over the last 20 years, particularly the last 10, even more, has grown so much. You know, what they look for in a quality of a knife compared to before is so much more educated. And when you get that educated and you're looking for that kind of quality, it's hard to bring that at an affordable price. I mean, everybody would love the Porsche and the Ferrari, right? Or the Tesla. But you know, we're trying to bring it all to the market at an affordable price while doing those sports cars too. You know, sorry for the analogies, but yeah, that's always a challenge, you know, having balance within the product at a high level.
Tom and I have started dabbling in a couple other brands that I'm not going to name here. And as we dabble in them and talk about them, we notice that other members in the group will find their way to it as well. And something that comes up a lot is, you know, we'll buy a, I don't know, $700 knife and talk it up, and somebody else will get that knife and they'll go, it's not very sharp. I'll go, yeah, it's not a PM2 out of the box, is it? And they'll be like, no, it's not. I mean, it's a pretty edge, but it's not very sharp. And I'm like, I don't think people that buy these cut things. They just look at them. But your knives come out of the box ridiculously sharp. I don't know a PM2 or really any Spyderco that I've pulled out and was disappointed with how sharp it was. It was a factory fresh knife. Pretty impressive.
I have to give the factories credit on that, particularly the American facility. Yep. You know, you walk through our facility, and these guys have such passion. They're so good at what they do. You know, I've been watching people make knives my whole life. You know, I can remember before these, you know, sophisticated machines were doing what they're doing, or robotics and everything else. And, you know, the team that Spyderco has built is truly the best team we've ever had. These guys are so good at what they do. I have to give the Japanese and Taiwanese and the rest of the vendors credit too. You know, when I meet with most of these people, it's the same faces as when I was in Gray, you know, and we all try to get better and better through the years, and edges are important. I'm not going to claim that we're perfect, but these things have to cut out of the box. It's very important to us. You know, sharpeners is the same way. You know, a lot of knife manufacturers don't get into sharpeners like we do. And we were making sharpeners before we were making knives. But we really understand that once you buy this thing, you know, the purchase isn't over. You know, you're going to have to maintain this thing. You're going to have to work with the company if you ever want it repaired. You know, this is something that you carry with you every day. Sometimes your life depends on it. Sometimes it's the most important thing in your life is your knife. And we certainly take that to heart in all aspects. And the edge is the most important part. And we're trying to do it at a high level on a lot of them at once. You know, it's easy to make 10 a day that are all perfectly sharp. It's harder to up those quantities and then deliver, particularly in times like a pandemic. You know, I have to give a hats off to our staff on what they were able to do during a pandemic. They certainly get the job done, and it's something that you can stand behind.
Would you mind talking a little bit about what that's meant for you guys? We've observed a logjam in terms of product being able to get out of the factory, and I'm sure that's a massive part of it. What impact has like safe distancing had on your ability to work in a factory?
Oh, you know, I should have anticipated more of a question like that. For any business, I would imagine they have stories. You know, every industry, every business has been impacted by this, and we've been impacted vastly different, even within the same industry, because we're in different parts of the country. You know, for us, we've done a fairly good job at adjusting to it. I think a lot of that is because of our staff has been here for so long. They really know what they're doing. You know, I keep saying, you know, hats off to all of our staff and the people we work with, but it's not a bunch of newbies. You know, most of the people that we work with have been through 2001 and been through 2008, and we've seen tough times before, and we got to roll up our sleeves and get through it. And so, you know, it hasn't been easy. There are some areas that I wish we could be doing better. I'd like to be coming out with new product quicker and more of it. But when we're trying to just fill demand, it's hard to have a brand new product.
Yeah.
And so a lot of what you're seeing these days is variations of a lot of what we're doing, because we're busy filling a lot of that demand, and we're doing a lot of CQI and always making it better. We could always say, gee, look at our brand new product we came out with, but we didn't deliver the old one. And that's pretty hard to do. So, you know, I personally, I'm ready for this to kind of be over and go back to normal. I'm a sports fan. You know I keep talking about some of my own personalities, but I'm a sports fan. I like to see competition in person. It's my favorite thing about sports.
Yeah.
I like seeing concerts and listening to music and doing that live. I mean, I need to get out with people, seeing people at shows. You know, I recently had a question about what I thought about not going to shows as much. You know, I like saving the money. We're not, you know, shipping a bunch of staff members out on planes and getting hotels and booking spaces and doing everything, but you miss the face-to-face. I really miss seeing the customers and the dealers and the people, and that's a lot of what you do. And if we do that too long, we're going to not be a connected culture. So, you know, I'm excited to get back to normal, and but we're certainly dealing with our challenges. I'm sure like a lot of people.
Who's your team? I just
Who's
got a
my
question.
team?
Yeah.
Oh, gee, gosh. Sorry if you don't like my team, for you folks, but I love the Denver Broncos. I've been following them since I was a kid. So I try to get out to as many of those games as I can.
Absolutely, I would too. It's a great place to see a game.
Yeah, you know, and right now, you know, gosh, I'm going to veer off on sports for a second, but the owner of that team, you know, had Alzheimer's and passed away. And the children are dealing with the business, and John Elway was the GM, and now he's not. And we're dealing with all these players, and it's the off season. And for me, that's some of my favorite season. You know, who are we going to get? How are we going to build this team for the future? I'm all about a lot of that kind of stuff in sports. The Broncos have done a wonderful job building teams through the years. I'm not a big Rockies fan. You know, give me the Yankees or somebody all day long, you know, because they know how to build a team. So just because they're in my hometown doesn't mean I necessarily support them, because I think about broader things than that. But go Broncos. Through the decades, they've tried to run a good franchise.
Yeah, I grew up a Cubs fan, and somewhere around, I don't know, the age of 19, I realized that just because I was loyal to them at 6 doesn't mean I need to stay loyal to them. And at the time, they were miserable at building a brand. They were miserable at building a team, and I was like, I'm done with it. And then, I don't know, 10 years later, they win the World Series.
Now, my wife, you know, she harasses me about this, but I'll change teams. You know, suddenly, you know, I remember a lot of people, gosh, again, I'm veering off on sports and this is knives, but, you know, I'm a Tom Brady fan. I think he's a great player. I have to give him credit for what he's done. And when he left New England, I suddenly became a bit of a Bucs fan, and gee, they won it all. But, you know, you know, I tend to be a little bit loyal to people a lot more than organizations oftentimes.
Yeah.
You know, names on buildings oftentimes stay the same, but the people in the building completely changed. And, you know, sometimes you have to change with it. And so, you know, Spyderco has a lot of that. You know, we have a lot of the same faces and the same people doing a lot of the same things, trying to win. And if you change all the faces out in our business, we're certainly not the same people anymore. And so I guess that's a bit of who we are.
Yeah.
Eric, to go back on something you said, I know you haven't been on the show before. Knives are the excuse for us to have this show. You can go where.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
If we want to get into talking air fryers, me and Jason will talk air fryers.
We've talked about air fryers. We've talked about how, did you know you can get your Amazon Alexa to play farts for you? We spent 20 minutes talking about that recently. That was a pretty good show. That was a popular show with the fans.
It was really popular. Let's not do that again.
So sports are fine. we'll bring it back to knives now. Earlier when before the show, we were talking a little bit about exclusives, and I'd really be interested to hear your point of view on how an exclusive originates, and then the collaboration that happens, and then how it finally becomes a real thing. It seems like it's a long process, and we're asked about it often. So if you could enlighten us a little bit, that'd be awesome.
I guess I read on some of this. I see that exclusives is certainly a conversation piece with Spyderco. I guess I'd like to give some history. It helps understand how we got to where we are today. Much of our exclusive program for Spyderco started because we didn't have a MAP, which is a minimum advertised price, and we were working heavily with Amazon. We no longer work directly with Amazon, and nowadays we do have a MAP, a minimum advertised price. But when you for me, a lot of our dealers and distributors go back to when I was a kid. I mean, look at Cutlery Shop. Like I was saying, we're a pretty old industry, and you end up seeing a lot of these faces for a really long time. And when Amazon came onto the scene, they've really been changing the world. When I was a kid, you went into a town, you opened up the yellow pages, you looked at all the knife stores and the mom and pop shops, and then you went jumped in your car and dialed them up on a phone. Nowadays it's a lot different, and Spyderco has certainly grown and evolved through this entire commerce, if you will. And so a lot of the exclusive programs started through the evolution of the commerce. The Amazon was really cutting prices down. They were really hurting the market and the value of the product. I'm a bit of a capitalist, and so I understood why it was happening. That doesn't always justify it.
Right.
And so, the exclusives program started so that a dealer or somebody could buy a knife that would cater to their customer, because they know their customer better than most, and they could start to compete against the big boxes and Amazons of the world and start to bring some value back to the product. And so, here we are 5 years plus later, and the market is continuing to change. Like I said, we no longer work with Amazon directly, and the exclusive program has really started to become high demand for a lot of the dealers, because they know their customers, and they think they can bring more value to the product for their customer, and they're exclusive. It's a bit of a challenge. It's always an evolving program. I guess these days we talk about a lot about what we're going to do with this moving forward as time goes on. It's hard for Spyderco to maintain exclusives. It really hurts our the evolution of new product, for example. Instead of coming out with a brand new lock, you might be coming out with a blade variation to support a dealer. In the end, though, that's really important for Spyderco. All these dealers that we work with tend to go back with us a very long time, and they all work hard for us, and we work hard for them. And so it's a balance and a very evolving thing as we move along. But mostly it was bred from trying to support the dealer who really knows their customer. And like Knife Center, I mean, his Warrenclyffe, I think he knows his customer fairly well. Also, there are other customers that will learn to know who he is. Oftentimes there's a variation of a knife that you might want, and it's coming from a dealer you've never heard of. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, to help a small business and support the industry and commerce, rather than going to, your big box and Amazon. And so it's all encompassing. It really is. And it's a very evolving program. And I hope the market can try to be patient with us. We have limited capacity while trying to do a lot of this, which also makes it difficult. That's the long lead times. And gee, I had that idea, and the market's starting to pass by, or whatever it is. It's all a challenge for us to keep up with. But I guess give me a soapbox and I'll stand on it and talk about stuff. The exclusives program is very evolving still.
So if Tom and I owned a knife store and we approached you about building a knife, and we had ideas of what we wanted to do, like let's say we wanted to do oh, I don't know. Let's say it's a Mannix 2, and we want saber-tooth tiger bone inlays, and we want unobtainium steel. How do you guys vet that as a company before you would say yes and then do it? Is there a, I don't know. Do you guys have some sort of vetting process behind the scenes to weed
I
out
guess
the silly ones?
we do a little bit. We can't just make knives for everybody.
Right.
Do you have any credit whatsoever? Do you have a
No.
storefront? Those are the kind of things that we look at. How old is your business? What else do you sell? I mean, we really try to step back and look at who you are as a dealer.
Yeah.
Honestly, though, we'll jump into it to help the little guy sometimes. I'm going to call a guy out. There's a guy that owned the EDC forums. Some people might know what it is, but he wasn't a big business. He owned a forum, and he sold some things out of his forum, but he liked our brand. And so we did a couple of exclusives for him to help support him and his forum. And how does he have the credibility to somebody who's an established knife dealer for years? It's hard to justify that. And so sometimes we'll step out of that to help support somebody that's maybe been supporting us or for whatever reason. But we do have some sort of vetting. And sometimes they don't do a good job servicing the customer after we've started to work with them. And so we have to reevaluate our relationship with them as we go on. And in a lot of ways, the jury's always out. The jury's always out as us as a manufacturer. I mean, if we start failing as a manufacturer, the consumer is going to stop buying and not rely on our product anymore. And the same is the other way around. This also came up recently, but a lot of our product is sold online, and people have faith in our product, and they can spend the money online and get it sight unseen. And if you're spending money on product that's sight unseen, how do you have the faith in it? And it takes years of hard work to start to gain that faith, and we're not looking to get rid of it. And so we'll bring a good product to the market, and hopefully the dealer can be a good partner and a conduit to that customer, and we can continue to do that together for years to come.
I will say that the idea of a small dealer, I mean, I've seen it work with myself. There's a very large number of dealers that I'm good friends with now that until they had an exclusive I hadn't bought from them, I wasn't aware of them. But now, I know they're a bigger deal in my head than some of the bigger guys because I have a relationship with them now. That's perfect. I had never heard of River's Edge Cutlery, and now you can't escape River's Edge Cutlery.
I agree. I mean, that REC, now they're just the REC. That's how I hear them more than River's Edge Cutlery.
Yeah.
And so, they came to us with a great idea. The 204P that they use can take that coating and that color, which not all steels can. That's another reason to do exclusives is these guys come up with good ideas. And, those guys service the customer well. They deliver on time. They answer the phone call. They do what they need to do to help service the customer. And if that starts to go south, then everything else does too. And so, most of the exclusives we're working with, those guys are working hard too. I have to give REC a lot of credit for their combination, and we've been very happy to work with them. The piece you held up is one of my personal favorites.
While we're talking about this, I'm hoping you can clear something up for us. It would definitely make my year if you could help me out here. What model is this?
I call it the Para 3.
You call it the Para 3?
Yeah. What's the box say?
Well, the website says Para 3, and the piece of paper in the box says Para 3.
Okay.
The catalog says Para 3.
Yeah.
On more than one occasion, you've been caught on video calling it a paramilitary 3.
Oh, I might do that.
It causes me endless grief.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It's just funny how people have heard it. You say it like one time and they ran with it.
Somewhere at Shot Show, you called it a paramilitary 3, and it's haunted us since because we're the Millie Paramilitary 2 Para 3 Club. We're trying to keep the nomenclature right. Yeah, and some of the dudes in the group will still call it a paramilitary 3 just to torture me.
Yeah, next it'll be the P4.
Yeah.
That's where it gets complex.
I don't know. when you come up, when you've been doing this like I have for as long as I have, you know, the names and the SKU numbers and all of that become a bit of a challenge.
I don't doubt
I
it.
had never thought that I would forget about knives. It had never occurred to me that, gee, I would forget we had ever done that. And just recently, people have brought me knives, and it's like, wow, I forgot about that knife.
That's funny.
You know, our customer base is getting to know as much about our knives as I am in many ways. And I'm always trying to stay on top of it. But that I tend to mess up in the names, I guess, once in a while, just because they just all come through.
You made my day. Thank you so much.
You solved the big conundrum.
It's like a weight off my mind. Yeah, the Spidey Wiki lives in my phone. I'm checking it daily because people will ask questions, and I can't memorize them all. So having that resource at my fingertips has been pretty helpful. That I can, people ask a question like, "Which model is this?" and I'll hold on and I'll scroll and find it, and be able to answer questions with it.
Names are so hard too,
Yeah.
you know, to come up with. So often we develop the product, and we're done and ready to go to the market, and we're still working on the name. It's, you know, has it been used? That's the first thing you have to check. And so many names have been used. We like a manufactured name if you can. Endura, Endella. Those were great. You can trademark them. You can own them. Balio. But you know, names are tough. And then you have to remember them all. So always a challenge.
So of the knives you remember, what's your favorite current model that's out and your favorite discontinued model that you'd like to see come back?
Good question.
Oh, gee, I don't know. That's so hard for me. They're always changing. You know, I have a new product in my pocket every day, just like I was talking to you earlier. I'm really big on the little natives right now. Polywog, that's a nice one. You know, oftentimes people will show me a knife I forgot about. And
It has your name on it.
Another one of those.
It has your name on it, right?
Yeah, that's, you know, that I really like that lock. You know, it lends itself so well to fun. I was excited for the Phoenix to come out. You know, I guess I would really have to comb through our knives to think about what I would like to see come back out or see again. It seems to change every day. I guess the older I've gotten, though, the smaller knives appeal to me. Para 3, little native. I don't know. Some days the Chief, the military, though, the Resilience, they're a nice carry. You know, when I'm out on the lot, I'll carry a bigger knife usually.
Yeah, definitely.
So
this is, you know, so much fun.
Yeah, the blade on that, the thickness with the length and the bevel, that's a one of my favorites. We used to make a larger Centofanti that was very similar. Just reached out, you know, it was thin with a full flat grind. I loved that knife as a kid. You know, I loved all of Centofanti's stuff. You know, I think of people like Centofanti, and I certainly miss the Centofantis of the world. And they help lead me to the path I'm on today.
One of our moderators, Stephen Thompson, will be very sad if I don't ask this next question. So I'm going to go ahead and do it for Stephen. His favorite knife of yours is the Domino. It's very dear to him. Whenever they pop up used, he's always talking them up. He likes to take pictures of his Domino collection and put them out. And he'd love to hear from you a little bit about the Domino, if you wouldn't mind talking about it.
All right. I guess as a side note, the Domino and dice were designed when I was in Vegas. You know, I go to Vegas every year.
Oh, wow.
You know, I because of SHOT Show or USN, I'm in Vegas multiple times a year.
That's funny.
At the time, you know, I was getting into flippers a bit, and there weren't a lot of flippers out that had 4-finger choils, you know, so that you could really choke up on them. I think there might have been 1 or 2 on the market before this one. The other thing I was shooting for in the design is that the flipper kind of hid away. You know, at the time when the Domino and dice came out, everything had a big flipper that became a guard.
Yeah.
And I wasn't looking for a big guard, and I was looking for a 4-finger choil. And so the Domino and the dice were designed with a 4-finger choil and to hide the guard or the flipper a bit. They took a little while to get to the market, which I think if they got to the market a little quicker early on. They might have been more of the first for some of those things. I've already tinkered with a domino and dice too. Nowadays there's more that we have in R&D than we could possibly make. There's hundreds of items that we work on.
I can only imagine.
A lot of them the market will never see.
Yeah.
Personally, I really like the domino and dice. I think that there are issues with them. Whenever you bring a knife to the market, you get thousands of them out there. You get market reaction. You wait a few years. There's always something to fix. And if there's not something to fix and you're not looking close enough or you don't know enough. And so, someday maybe we'll kick out the domino and dice too. But I like them, they were fun for me to do. I think the name throws some people off. That gets me back to how important names are. What do they have to do with a domino and dice? I guess they really don't have anything to do with them.
You need a black and white one.
And so that might steer buyers away.
Right.
And so it's still a high performance piece, and I recommend it for anybody that's looking for a Spyderco flipper. Also opens with a thumb, which is nice. The thumb is still exposed, and as I recall, it has a 3-way clip. But now maybe it's a 4-way clip. I can't quite remember. See, it's hard for me to remember everything.
3-way clip would make sense because of the frame lock.
It might not, though. I remember the Embassy had a 3-way clip, but that was an auto. Anyways, I'm now my mind's bouncing around. So that's my opinions on the domino and dice.
Thank you for that.
Steven,
I appreciate it.
Steven, you can sleep tonight.
That's right, Steven. He actually texted me 20 minutes ago, and he goes, now would be a good time to ask him a domino question. It'll really ease his mind and relax it.
In fact, I can still remember sitting in the hotel room sketching that one up.
That's awesome.
Good memory. Which I still design with a pencil and paper. Almost everything I've designed still came with a little bit of graphite and paper.
Nice.
How is it you guys have innovated so many different blade steels? When I look at other companies, they certainly have. Is it a big expense, or is it a time suck for you to innovate a new steel? But what is it about it that you guys have really captured that? And it's something that I really like about the line, because to me, it's very, very interesting to try the new steel out. And and the fact that I can get one platform with many steels means that I'm eliminating a lot of the other variables, and I'm just dealing with the steel variation. So to me, it's super interesting, but I wonder why it's so interesting for you guys.
I have to give my dad a lot of credit on that. When I was a kid, we made all stainless knives in Japan, and there really weren't, the steels weren't really marked on the knives back then. It's stainless steel, it's surgical. People really didn't appreciate steels like they did like they do now. And so, when I was a kid, my dad tried to use really good steels in the knives, and he tried to mark the steel on the knife. And the edge was so important. I think about, all the times my dad talked about the edge being so important in the steel. Without a good steel and an edge, everything else is pretty much moot. Not that everything else isn't important once you have those things. And so, he was always, hard charging on steels. When Crucible came to the market, he was banging on their door. I heard you made good stuff. Can I put it in a knife? And so, he really charged hard on it. He continues to charge hard on it. I have to give him credit for the Spy 27. When he wanted to make Spy 27, I thought he was a little crazy. Why would we want to make that formula? It's going to cost us more money. And I think that's where a lot of manufacturers get bogged down in, is a lot of the kind of stuff that sometimes I even get bogged down in, and I have to let my mind get away from it. My dad really pushed for Spy 27, and he really pushed for Canvas Micarta. And in both cases, I was a tough pitch. It's going to cost us a lot of money to develop Spy 27. It's not a cheap steel, and it's and we got to get our factories to work with it, and same with Micarta. Now, the factories and the workers, the crew, I have to give them credit too. When they get a new steel, they try it. They work on it. They make it work. They work with the heat treaters. They go back and forth. They work on the bevel grinders, and they make this stuff work. And it's so much easier to throw up your hands and walk away. In a lot of ways, I think that we're a little hard on our staff on trying to get them to do all these steels. But, as the years have gone on, they appreciate them, which helps.
This has been my COVID carry of the year. Since COVID, and I'm stuck at home, I'm working from home. This thing has been in my pocket almost every day. It's such a good knife, and I really like the steel. I'm interested about Spy 27. What is it that this solves for you guys?
Oh, for my dad, we're not really trying to, I guess we're not trying to solve a problem when it comes to steels. We're always just trying to push the ball forward. And Spy 27 pushes the ball forward. It pushes the ball forward on developments of new steels, on chromes, on the cleanliness of the chemistries. It just pushes the ball forward. And oftentimes when you push the ball forward, it brings new things to light. And so, Spy 27 has done that. It gets a nice clean edge. The grain structure is great. It's fun to cut with.
Kevin's right. It's good for jogging pants.
It is.
Where can't you take a Spy 27 pair of 3 lightweight?
Yep, it's good stuff.
It takes a good
I love
edge.
the edge you guys are put. That's not our edge. That's your edge, right?
Well, yeah, but it was really easy to make it shiny.
Yeah, that's a
It
mirror.
sharpens
That's
great.
beautiful.
It's
It's funny,
too.
we've talked about that in our factory. One of these days, that we got to watch those edges. Edge angles are so important, but so is the grain structure of those edges. I mean, if there's a fine balance, you don't want them to chip out. What's that grain structure of the edge? But it's something we pay attention to. I love seeing it when customers take that to a mirror polish. So Spy 27 does it quite well. Beautiful looking knives.
Mine is covered with box knife tape, so it's not so pretty. Tom's is prettier. Tom doesn't use his knives on boxes.
No. I take
honestly,
kitchen scissors and I open them up and steps.
Tom cuts sweatshirt tags with his knives.
I cut my sweatshirts with my knives on accident, flicking them as well.
Oh, no. Tom's been into sweatshirts lately. He's ordered half a dozen from different manufacturers trying to find the ultimate sweatshirt.
Yeah, but we're playing with some of that stuff at Spyderco too, but I don't want to dive too much.
I want a Spy 27 sweatshirt.
I mean, we had a sweatshirt we brought to the market and never delivered. And that was because the product didn't perform like we were wanting to. Whether it's a hoodie or it's a knife or a sharpener, it's got to perform. But, one of these days we want to get back to some pretty good sweaters.
We had a request earlier for Spyderco leggings. Let me see if I can find it. One of our members asked for leggings. So
if you can't say something nice, keep your mouth shut, right?
There we go.
That's what I'm telling myself.
Yeah, Miss Bianca's asking for leggings. So.
Oh, well, I don't know if we can do that. It's such a small market, I think, for us.
I imagine.
I got a couple of requests because I've been really pushing how much I like Carhartt lately. All on board with that. Perfect collaboration, I think. Perfect.
I like Carhartt. Right now we just brought another Van Quest bag to the market, the Envoy 17. I'm looking forward to working with companies more. Hell, if there was a really high performance legging, I guess you could send me a message and we'll consider it. But it's got to be a performance brand.
Oh, that makes sense.
I understand.
You mentioned messenger bag, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot because it could be a different bag or it might not be there. Do you have it near you by any chance?
That messenger bag is awesome. I don't know why I don't have one yet. I need to order one.
Is the bag I'm carrying today. Carry it with me nearly everywhere. There's my patches that I have on it.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's the coolest thing.
We still got a patch on there. Good.
I love it. Thanks for the support. I love the patch too.
We just sold the second pair of leggings. Sam's in for the leggings, and Dan Ozspider Tan from Australia.
Rich Cox, obviously.
Rich Cox will get some leggings. Yeah, it's 4. We got 4 pairs.
I'm learning a lot about our consumer base.
Just put a spider on it. We'll sell it.
We're all grown-up children in this group. If something is funny or ironic, we're all about it, regardless.
That's right. So we're coming up at the top of the hour. We have a couple minutes left, and you've been very kind and gracious with your time. Wonder if you had anything that you'd like to say to everybody. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I want to give you a chance if you want to talk about anything coming up or anything you're excited about for 2021.
No, I'm excited to take off my mask and see people again. But no, really, thanks for the support. We love the feedback people give us. I get emails all the time. We read it on the forums. We see it in social media. We really appreciate what you guys do and like our brand. It makes working easy. And so thank you all very much for the support. We love what we do, and we're going to keep pushing.
I think the passion shows. It shows in the product. It shows in the attention to detail, the thoughtfulness you guys put into the actually using the product is pretty apparent. There's a lot of knives in the market that were not designed by someone who's used a knife. They're art pieces, or they're, I don't know, style over substance. But you guys really take into mind the end user. I love it.
We've never produced a knife that we haven't carried. My father and I have carried everything we've ever produced. We still look at everything, even the exclusives. Every single exclusive my dad and I look at. These things don't just go out into the market without us knowing about them. And so every week we're peeling back the onion and seeing what we can produce and trying to do the best we can. But we certainly have a passion. We're still getting our hands on every single one of them.
I think it's the way to do it. Got to carry it, know how it works. Well, Tom, I think we're out of time.
We are out of time. I mean, you and me aren't out of time, but Eric's out of time.
We've rarely ended a show on time. This is weird for us. So I feel kind of strange, but I'm so glad you could join us, Eric. Thank you very much for being here. We might talk a little bit. If you need to drop off, that's fine.
If you want to stay, you're 100% welcome to stay, but you gave us more than we deserve time-wise. So
there's plenty of goofy questions in the comments Tom and I can laugh about. It was hard not to laugh the whole time. These guys are making us laugh.
All right. Well, it was definitely fun talking to you guys. You make it really easy. Don't mind talking to you guys if you ever want to again. Thanks so much. Hell, maybe next time we'll even talk about Van X. We'll see.
Oh my God, we almost.
We ran out of time. We can't talk about it. Sorry, guys.
It's over. Okay.
It's over. Too late.
All right.
Thank you very much.
You guys so much.
Take care.
Thanks, Eric.
Bye.
Bye. We almost made it a whole episode without saying that word.
I wasn't going to say it. Were you going to say it?
I wasn't going to say it.
I wasn't going to say it. But guys, we ran out of time. I'm sorry.
It's over. Yeah.
It's over. I mean, if he had brought it up earlier, we might ask, but it's too late. I'm sorry.
When we're talking about steels, I thought it might have come up.
Yeah.
Well, that was amazing.
How about that? We just talked to Eric Glesser for a whole hour.
We have like 5 times as many people watching as we normally do.
Yeah, people
wonder why.
And what's funny is Eric would talk, and all of a sudden the comments would totally stop.
Yeah, like people were actually listening.
Yeah.
And then, Jason and Tom were talking.
Taking notes. Yeah, it was great. Oh my gosh. Patrick left social media, I guess. Good for you, Patrick. Pull the plug. It's I don't know. The brotherhood in the knife group is worth it, though, I think. You just got to groom your Facebook so that you don't have anything but knife crap in it. That way, that's the safe way.
It is. No one here applies to this rule. Sometimes people get really specific, like, I'm going to have a knife account. Is it echoing?
Yeah, that happens too.
And they have an account that doesn't look real. I mean, that works, but sometimes we go, I don't know what this is. This isn't a real person. But having I get messaged on Instagram constantly, like, I wish I could have Facebook because then I could join your group. You can. Literally, you can. It's not a big deal.
I'm sorry the overlords are keeping you from Facebook. I'm happy that I was able to teach him something about a magic eraser.
That's awesome.
That was hilarious. He didn't know.
Yeah. No, I mean, it is pretty crazy to think. I mean, there's like 250 SKUs, not even like the full SKU number, just models like Para 3, military, shaman. There's 250 something of those individual models, not including all the variants of each one.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would imagine you forget stuff that happens.
Google Spidey Wiki and look it up, and then click on Delica, and then just keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, or go to native and look at all the natives. Yeah, they've had hundreds and hundreds of models, and sometimes I laugh when people say, "I wish Spyderco would make more variations. I wish they'd make a wider variety of products." And I'm like, "You ever looked at a catalog? The catalog's crazy. There's a ton of knives that they make."
They need to make a Kershaw though. Why doesn't Spyderco make Kershaw?
Why doesn't Spyderco make Kershaw?
Yeah, I want a Kershaw made by Spyderco. Oh, they actually have done that. Never mind. They have tons of models.
Oh, snap. I guess they have.
Jason, the biggest takeaway I took from this whole event
Yes.
is it's called the Para 3. Period.
Boom! It's the Para 3. That's it. Yep.
No more arguing. No
Right.
more arguing ever again. We're
Write
going
it
to
down,
tag
Brian.
you guys on this post. Every time someone says that, I'm just going to tag this video.
By the way, it never really bothered me that much, but I liked poking at it because it always elicited like 200 responses. So every time I ever did an alert, like a PSA, I get at least 250 comments. So it was good for stirring the pot.
It is. The thing that bugs me about it is like, well, I'm just going to say, I don't want to say paramilitary 3, so I'm going to say PM3. I'm like, what's wrong? But you could just say P3. It's even shorter.
Right. Embrace your laziness and just drop the M. It's 2 letters instead of 3. It's just easier. So
Or the whole name is only 4 letters.
Right. What gave me anxiety was knowing that a PM2 will eventually become a PM3, and the crash collision that gave me nightmares. So,
you know, I mean, obviously, you remember Y2K?
Yeah, I do.
PM2K is going to happen.
Nice. I didn't know where you were going with that.
The crossover, it's just they're not going to work.
I actually know a knucklehead that sold his business and moved to the boonies when Y2K was coming because he thought that it was literally going to be the end of the world. And somewhere around, I don't know, August of 2001, or I guess it would be 2000, he rubbed his eyes and realized that things weren't going to go badly. So he moved back to town and had to buy his business back at a loss so that he could resume his life because the world didn't end. So, but that's how I'd feel if we kept calling it the PM3.
That's true. You know who's really cool?
Eric Glesser.
Yeah, Eric Glesser's really cool. I love that we got to talk to him and that he's so cool and that he's a knife guy.
He had a club patch on his back.
That is awesome. That mind blowing.
Laura Wright had a question from the beginning of the show. What was he carrying in his pocket? He had a Warncliffe PM2 in his pocket. He also had a glow in the dark that he was product testing. So I know a little bit about glow in the dark. I know that it's a powder that has to be added to the matrix of the plastic. And when you do that, it compromises the strength of it. So he talked about it being brittle. I bet what he's doing with that knife is he's dropping it from 3.5 feet all day long to see if the scales will blow up.
You mean he's not probably wiping it down with a microfiber cloth to take pictures of it for Instagram?
He's certainly not wearing black nitrile gloves while he handles it.
Probably not.
Gloves. There were no gloves. Man just uses knives. He's a hero. Oh, Tom, I think we need to end the show. It feels like we had a nice moment. Before we ruin it, let's just put a pin in it and let's call this end. And then later on,
post-game
second show where we can ruin that. But this will be a complete document. What do you think?
I think that's a perfect idea. Let's wrap this up with a bow, and then we can have a download after party show later.
Sure.
Or whatever you want to call it.
Sure. After party. Yeah. We'll all cut ourselves, polish the knives, talk about
for everybody.
Talk about our favorite nitrile vendor. Yeah. It's a damn shame we didn't have enough time for the Vanex.
Well, I'm glad all of you were here to witness me being giddy like a little schoolgirl because I was really excited. Thank you all for being members. Thank you for watching live. And thank you, Eric Glesser.
Thank you to everybody for watching. I'm Jason. That's Tom. This is FFIB. That was Eric Glesser. And yeah, it's all downhill from here. Thanks, buddy.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone. Bye-bye.